totally doesn't mind their efforts. God, you ever did it on the nostrils there? I count like 16 here. Being in front of this guy when he sneezes is like shoving your face in a whale's blowhole. Anyway, Picard knows this ship so well, he knows that the slightest problem is going to mess with the warp core, so he fires a laser into what looks like a power socket and all hell breaks loose. Taking time to break their shield that's supposed to protect them from the sweep, he hauls ass out of there. Meanwhile, in the B plot, Geordi is hurt but will recover just fine, while Hutchinson has a sheet over him. And that's why character shields are the most important part of Starfleet's arsenal. They figure they can use Geordi's visor to create a hypersonic pulse to knock everyone out. Because the first thing you think of when you look at a visual tool is how well suited it is to make noises, right? They'll need a distraction to finish setting it up, so Riker volunteers to get his ass kicked for a while. On the ship, Picard has escaped into the Jeffries tubes and comes across the Barian sweep, so he tricks the pursuing bad guy into running into it. And Picard is clearly unhappy when he hears the man's off-screen scream, "Damn, sweep 2, Picard 0, and so far my best weapon has been a saddle." The insurgents now need to abandon engineering to avoid the sweep, but the trilithium is very unstable. Still, all it takes is one glare and Dr. Wiener wilts and goes off to try to make it not explode.
That should keep the resin stable enough for transport.
Come on! Don't be so tense, Neil. Listen, if something goes wrong, you won't have time to worry about it. Let's go.
Well, I think the same could probably be said about Russian roulette and sticking your head in a great white's mouth. The kinds of things that a sane person knows is bad with a capital duh. Picard, on the other hand, has decided to do less Die Hard and more Home Alone, getting a crossbow and dipping the tips in something or other, cutting the rings on the Jeffries tubes, leading the 10 forward. You know, every time I see this scene, I expect to see an iron fall on her face. In fact, this is so not Die Hard that it's been the bad guys contacting Picard so far to taunt him rather than the other way around, pointing out to him that without the power, he's just as screwed as they are. And they got a point. I mean, how's he supposed to get off before the beam gets to him, right? He's not a magician. Well, not that kind of a magician, anyway. Picard ambushes the man of 1,000 noses, only to get caught by Lita again. The sweep takes the unconscious guy out, too, and Dr. Wiener gets gunned down by the boss once he explains how to empty the copy toner of the trilithium. Down at the party, as Glassjaw Riker recovers from a beating, a perimeter warning of the insurgents' rescue ship is triggered. So they set off the visor, and everyone passes out except for Data, who disarms them and starts checking out the control panel. With just Lita and Ghetto Booty left, Picard is escorted into 10 forward, but what they didn't plan for was Picard conspiring with the editor to add some explosives to the strip of duct tape on the floor between the time he steps over it and the time that Lita does, taking her out and leaving it with just a fist fight between Ass Effect and Picard himself. Yes, finally, a girl, someone I could probably take in a fight. After that embarrassment with Soren, I need an ass, Jaina! Where the hell's my saddle when I need it? Ah, not the face! She gets away with the trilithium, but Picard manages not to die, and because he also read the script, figured out what the control rod in the package was for and removed it, causing her ship to blow up. Ain't no one seeing her now but Garibaldi. You know I threw that fight. Uh-huh. It was all part of my plan. I let her pummel my face to lull her into a false sense of security. Uh-huh. Counselor, I threw that fight, you know. Everyone shows up to celebrate the hero of the hour, Picard's saddle. I named it Beverly. Episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Hutchinson, though the episode at least set out to make him so. Final score for Starship Mine is 8 out of 10. Definitely not a typical Trek story, but it does a much better job of letting Picard be an action hero than the silly Captain's Holiday did.
I think you, sir. No, sir, I believe.
Our episode this week is once again about Wesley Crusher, so strap in. A Starfleet propulsion expert named Kaczynski is coming aboard to perform some experiments on their VSVS to try to make them go faster without altering their engines. Riker is convinced Kaczynski's full of it, but Picard's all for trying it out. More speed might let him actually get around to some exploring, since by episode 5 the only thing he's done, besides check about primitives and drunks, is seek out new life and surrender to it. More speed would at least add runaway as a viable alternative. Kaczynski is played by the late Stanley Campbell, whom you may recognize from Monk, where he played Monk's therapist, Dr. Kroger. Troy provides us with her usual insight.
Also, is arrogant, overbearing, self-important, and very sure of himself and his ability.
Yeah, we know about Riker. What about Kaczynski? One actually useful thing she does say is that the assistant Kaczynski brought over is just blank. Maybe occupying space, but he doesn't have any presence at all, just like Joe Biden. Kaczynski strolls into engineering and demands to know what Wesley's doing, besides sporting the latest in the fall Grandyware catalog, and we learn he's doing a school project. And we all remember how well things went last time Wes was sitting in that chair. Kaczynski and Riker spent some time in a dick measuring contest until Kaczynski deigns to share his theory with them of how this will make the ship go faster. The assistant takes the time to enter the info far faster than any person can, which is impressive when your fingers are the size of small bread loaves. Then again, I am jealous of anyone that gets to wear zebra-striped pajamas to work. As he works, Wesley leans in and looks things over, and to set our extreme creepiness for this episode, the assistant glances at Wes and licks his lips. For all the talk about avoiding conflict, they've sure gone out of their way to make Kaczynski a complete jerk. I mean, it's one thing to be arrogant. I mean, that's kind of par for the course here. But he goes beyond that by, well, for example, just shoving past Riker for no reason other than so he can gesticulate grandly while speaking of his great genius, moving from douchebag to self-appointed lord of the dickheads. Then he gives us his double talk on the nature of reality that everyone agrees is drivel, but is indignant that they're questioning this shot between pop science and bad New Age banter to create what's less this new philosophy or engineering approach and more like his own frickin' religion, with him as Pope of the Church of Assholes. So the process gets underway as Enterprise takes off, and wow, look at how fast that guy's hands are moving, huh? Way faster than any human could. I've seen old ladies with 20 bingo cards work faster. And of course, Kaczynski's doing his thing too, tapping the instruments to make them go faster. So I guess his engine upgrade was just installing Parappa the Rapper ROMs on there. And I hate to seem like I'm constantly beating on this relationship between the assistant and Wesley here, but honestly, what really happens is he is so distracted by Wesley's presence that he seems to lose track of what's going on. He starts fading in and out of reality and then just gets tossed out of his chair. This winds up leaving the ship to go past warp 10. Uh-oh. You know what that means. Yep, freaky salamander sex time.
No one has ever reversed engines at this velocity. That's how I call this fine.
Oh, well, when you put it that way, it doesn't sound nearly as suicidally stupid. On arriving, they're in the galaxy M33, 2.7 million light years from home.
Yep, that's correct. What's wrong?
As the power grew, I applied the energy asymptomatically. I anticipated some silly, but it didn't occur. Now that was my error using the vessel functions at the beginning.
What's he saying? Tell the truth, sir, it sounds like nonsense.
How ironic. This can spare the most of the technobabble we'll get later on. Wes is concerned about the assistant, but despite his protest, the assistant doesn't want him to go get his mother, instead just preferring to lean in close to him. Up on the bridge, the asshole is pontificating about how awesome he is, and the chief engineer is the first convert, saying that they should name the new warp speed after Kaczynski. As he slimes his way off the bridge, the senior staff gather to discuss the situation. And believe it or not, it's Worf who actually has the most insight into this. Because you see, Kaczynski claims they wound up out here because of a mistake he made. He's gloating over how wonderful this mistake was. And all Worf sees is, you've made a mistake. You've screwed up and you've stranded us in a place that doesn't even have a name yet. Now, if this is a little oops, what does a big oops look like? And guess what? We're going to find out. So yeah, between this and the naked now, I may have to completely reevaluate how I look at Worf. He seems to be the only one who knows what the hell's going on around here. Data, on the other hand, is hopeful that maybe they could stick around here and explore for a little while. I mean, after all, 300-year trip back for him, that's no big deal. Picard's actually kind of tempted by that thought, too. I mean, there could be whole new species out here for him to find and surrender to. But there is a chance they could wind up getting stranded out here and having to spend the entire rest of the series trying to get home. Who the hell wants to watch that crap? They prepare to head back as Kaczynski delivers the papal bullshit to the masses, and Wesley has a concerned discussion with Riker's left arm. Despite his protests, they start to head back, but the assistant starts phasing out of reality, and the ship heads even faster in the other direction until they wind up at the edge of the universe, having clearly reached the speed of limbs from all the clouds and cosmic scrubbing bubbles.